All right, so when it comes to an exercise event, a competition, a performance you're going to go do, you have to make sure that you are fully hydrated before the event. You don't want to have excessive hydration. You want to have just the right amount of hydration. So we just call that term euhydration or EU hydrated, right? So EU or EU hydrated. That's the most important thing to do. And the reasons why is because you want to just maintain your adequate plasma volume. That's going to support your cardiovascular stability, thermoregulation, as well as your performance. Remember that your hydration status, that's going to influence things like your stroke volume, right? Which that's going to then influence your cardiac output. And then I mentioned your thermoregulation. Thermoregulation, your ability to dissipate heat, that's going to be really important. And so how do you make sure you do that? Well, first you need to make sure your baseline levels of what color is your urine, for example. Is that too light or is it too dark? Another big one is just like your body mass. If you weigh yourself all the time, you'll get an idea of how much you should weigh. And if you weigh a lot less or significantly less, that's a good indicator you're probably dehydrated. Of course, there could be other things, glycogen levels and whatnot, but those two kind of help you stay together. Now, how much water should you take beforehand? Well, it really kind of depends on the event, but typically you're looking at anywhere between 5 to 10 milliliters per kilogram of body weight. And you do that before the event, and so that's like if you weigh 70 kilograms, so if you're 70 kilograms, for example, that's around 350 to 700 milliliters of water, right? So 350 to 700 milliliters of water, and you do this this is all pre-event, okay? So I'll just right here. This is all I've got those backwards. Pre-event, all right? And you're doing this about, more than 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours or so before the event. Make sure you're getting this much in, and then looking at your color of urine. You want to avoid drinking like large volumes of water immediately before the start, because doing that is just gonna, like if you're just chugging fluids, it's going to cause rapid diuresis. So you're going to have to go to the bathroom quickly after that, because think again what's going to happen to your ADH levels, right? You're going to suppress those, or your ADH levels will be suppressed, so you'll not reabsorb that water, and you'll just urinate that out quickly. So avoid doing that. And then sodium, of course, is important, as we talked about earlier, just to maintain optimal hydration status. Our blood volume and everything else. So that's what we have to maintain. We're both EU hydrated as well as having adequate sodium intake. As long as you have adequate sodium intake, you certainly don't need to have more sodium during the pre-race ritual if the event's lasting less than 60 minutes, especially if it's like in cool, moderate environments where the sweat rate's going to be quite low. Just maintain a normal, normal sodium intake, okay? And you'll be totally fine. Is make sure your water levels are fine, because again, our kidneys can regulate that really, really well. But now, if the exercise is going to be in hotter environments, or it's lasting like 60 to 90 minutes, it could be important if you are having a higher sweat rate. Like if you know that you're a salty sweater, or if it's really high sweat rate, then you could consider, so like if your sweat rate is really high, then you might consider 0.5 to like a gram of sodium extra in the hours before, right? So taking those in the hours before, just so you make sure you're kind of preparing for that. It could be a little bit more. It just is so context dependent, right? If it's long duration, If there's high heat, there's high sweat levels, lots of sweating, then you might want to increase the sodium even more. Another thing to consider is our carbohydrates. Okay. Again, if it's an event lasting, like say less than 60 minutes, so less than 60 minutes, you don't really need to worry about carbs. Just make sure you have normal eating, your normal nutritional intake. The dinner you had before, if you have breakfast or whatever, those are going to be totally fine. You don't need to worry about that. If it's going to be longer than 60 minutes, so say 60 to 90 minutes, right? Or maybe if it's going to be more than that, then you could consider topping that off with some extra carbs in that case. And you might want to have some extra carbs that you drinking like a 6% carb solution as you're trying to just maintain your normal hydration status, right? The biggest thing is maintaining your normal hydration, all right? Now, if the event is going to be even longer, like several hours, right? So, so like talking about like 2 to 3 hours, and there's going to be a lot of sweating involved, then yeah, you've got to really make sure you get your water intake, 5-10 milliliters, maybe drink even more. It's more important to get more sodium in there, as well as carbohydrates, 1 to 4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Now, there is an advanced strategy that could be interesting in certain situations. Like if you know you're a high sweater and you're going to go do an event and it's going to be really hot outside and it's lasting longer than 60 minutes, then there is a trick that you kind of have to practice, and the results are kind of equivocal, but you could take 2-3 grams of sodium a few hours before and maybe even combine with some glycerol. So, and this is called like a pre-hyperhydration. And by doing that, during that first 60 minutes, I mean, you literally expand your blood volume and everything, so you weigh more. And at that first 60 minutes, you're able to you're sweating a lot, you're losing a lot of fluid. But then after that 60 minutes, and you're back down to your normal weight, you're actually able to perform a little bit better because, again, you maintain your stroke volume and you're having a high cardiac output. And so that is a possibility. Because it increases your plasma volume and helps to maintain your fluid retention and so on. But again, the evidence isn't great on that, so something you want to maybe consider before doing that. And then that's just so when it comes to the pre-hydration aspect of any type of event, number one, just make sure you are fully hydrated before. Make sure you get enough sodium throughout the days before. In certain situations, you know you're going to sweat a lot. Maybe take a little bit of extra sodium. Carbs, same idea, but other than that, you don't really need to worry about it. The biggest thing when it comes to doing all of this hydration protocols comes during the race, okay? So during exercise. And let's talk about that.